Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Cooper. Welcome to the Sharpen Podcast, brought to you by Acumen, an exclusive community of CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. On this episode, we're going to learn about the leadership concept and new book, How is Greater Than What? Master the growth and leadership skill everyone else ignores. Today, my guest is Preston Poore, the how guy. He spent 30 years leading in Fortune 500 companies like the Coca Cola Company, the Hershey Company, Ralston Purina, and learning what works and what doesn't. And he's realized leadership isn't about titles, endless meetings, or playing it safe. It's about how you lead, not just what you accomplish. Preston, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me today. Excited about our conversation.
You betcha. So before we get to the how guy, give us the quick tour. How did you get to here?
Yeah, thanks. Well, it was an invitation by you, first of all. No, I'm just
Right
kidding.
on.
So we'll start off with that.
Yes.
Um, hey, I like to have a good time, a little sense of humor. I worked for the Coca Cola Company for 20 plus years. And before that, and so you can imagine selling Coca Cola and the wonderful products that we had in the portfolio. And then before that, I worked for Hershey Chocolate, as you mentioned. So I had a lot of access to that and sold pasta. I don't know if you know this or not, but Hershey used to be the biggest pasta manufacturer in the United States. They used to have
That
brands
is
like, you didn't know that, did you? I
a
bet.
little
Yeah.
known
See,
fact. No,
yeah,
not at all.
little known fact, but they
Yeah.
used to sell brands like Ronzoni and San Giorgio and Skinner and some other regional brands. So really good. And before that, to your point, I was with Ralston. So I've had this career in consumer products, and I've worked with some wonderful brands and people over the years. My journey's taken me when I left Colorado after I graduated from college at Colorado State University. I moved to the Southeast looking for my Scarlett O'Hara, if you will, and I found her. Her name is Carla. I married her she married me actually about 33 years ago. And I've got two kids, and they're not kids anymore. Gosh, they're young adults. And every time I say that, I know they just shake their heads and say, Dad, we're not kids anymore.
That's right.
And they're both married. My daughter lives in New York City with her husband, Foley, and they have a new daughter, our first grandchild. So I got to spend some time with her the past couple of weeks. And then my son, Benton, and Emma, they live here in Atlanta where I am. I've been here for about 15 years. So that's kind of skinny on me.
That's a good tour around the world. Congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank
That's
you.
always a fun new season. So you've had three other kids. We call them books. So
Yeah.
this is your third book.
Yeah.
Why this book? Why now?
Yeah, great question. This book has been screaming to get out inside of me for, gosh, the past 2 or 3 years. And I see the current political environment. I experience toxic workplaces. I've seen tyrannical leadership at
Mm,
work. And I tell people there's got to be a better way. And you know what? The funny thing is that I used to be that tyrant at work. Dan. I used to be the bad guy that was not worried about the collateral damage I left behind me. I was climbing the ladder, just wind me up and let me go, and I would get up there. But there's been a few tipping points in my life where I found that wasn't the best way to go. It wasn't the best way to treat people. I literally was not putting people first in that. And so this tipping point came back in 2005 where I started to have to reevaluate my leadership skills. And then, man, I tell you what, over the past couple of years, I just saw this gap about the way people did things. And that the whole premise around how is greater than what is that how you do something matters more than what you actually do. Let that sink in for a minute. How you do something matters more than what you do. And I tell people all the time that results are absolutely table stakes. Absolutely. You got to deliver results. If you don't deliver results in an organization, if you're a CEO, a mid-level manager, frontline, you won't be around very long. And so the how is the leadership piece. And so I had some internal things that happened to me that I had to do some self-reflecting and transformation that had to happen in me back in 2005. And that led me through this journey over 10 years and then be involved in stuff at the Coca Cola Company where I could turn the ship and really take the new things that had happened in me and help better the workplace and do that. So that's why I wrote this book. It's for the next generation, Dan. It's for emerging leaders and help them get off the pile, help them understand what works best in an organization, the best way to treat people. And that was really just my message that I wanted to sing from the mountaintops for people to hear.
So this is obviously a personal thing for you. In our last conversation, if you remember, you told me a story or two of like a really solid uh, where it was backwards. And so,
Yeah.
or
Want to hear
share
those
with
again?
us
We share them with
an
the audience.
example. Uh-huh.
Well, unfortunately, there's a bunch of those stories
Pick
where I was
one. Pick
there, but
one
I
that
can
you
pick
like.
one. No, I'll pick one. So what I tell people how I start with this, there's a few of them. But the one I would share with the audience is related to the book How's Greater Than What. I opened with this setting of what we called sunset cinema. And I had just been hired by the Coca Cola company to become a franchise leader. And what that meant was, if you're familiar with the Coke system at all, it's made up of not only the Coca Cola company that makes the Coca concentrate, but they sell it to a bunch of bottlers who manufacture it and put it on the shelf for consumers to purchase or shoppers to purchase. And I was hired in as part of the Coca Cola company to represent and work with and do some local marketing with the local bottler in Montgomery, Alabama. And I just come off of working for Hershey Foods or Hershey Chocolate. Won a couple of big awards there with some teams. I was feeling pretty big about myself, and it was my job to help turn this market around and show people how to do things. So I said, okay, Sunset Cinema, we're going to have a big community event. We're going to have an outdoor movie theater at this place called Jasmine Hill, I believe was the name. It was an amphitheater. We would do some marketing, get everybody in. It'd be a big event. We'll have a lot of people there. And so I put all the plans together, Dan. I put all the plans together. I mean, I had communicated then through email. Get that? I communicated through email. The media plans. I put together the sampling plan. What movie we were going to have. All the things that you can imagine around an event and a local marketing thing to turn this thing around. Well, comes to the day of the event. Everything's set. I think everything's set. Remember, I said it was an outdoor amphitheater.
Yes.
Guess what happened that day? It rained.
Mother Nature.
We were expecting 500 people. 50 showed up. We had the wrong product that was sampled there. The media didn't run on time, so people didn't know about it. The displays, the point of sale material were not put up in the stores like they were supposed to be done. And man, I was just hot. I was just mad. As a matter of fact, you know what the major brand is that's represented in the movie that we showed? And the movie we showed was Remember the Titans. You ever heard that movie before?
Of course. It's
Yeah,
classic.
everybody has, right? Coach Boone, Coach Yost. But you know what the number one brand is in that movie?
I can guess.
It's not Coke, it's
Yeah.
Pepsi.
Yeah.
And so I even blame the promotions manager for not reviewing the movie to make sure we had this feel good thing. And I've got all these executives and other people at the bottling, my bottling partners around me looking and saying, wait a second, Pepsi's on the movie. Why do we do all this stuff? So man, I went ballistic. I was ticked off. I was mad at everybody else. As a matter of fact, I called the media person at home and blessed out the young lady on the other end. Just the wrong thing to do. I didn't blame myself, but I spread blame across. And all of a sudden, the VP calls me over and kind of get quiet, get kind of a close conversation. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I did this. I did everything right. I communicated, and people just haven't done their job. We've done some good stuff, but we just didn't land the plane today." He looked at me and said, "Preston, it's not what you did, it's how you did it."
Mm.
And so that story that happened to me, that was kind of a tipping point for me in Montgomery, Alabama, that I had to start stepping back and saying, okay, wait a second, something's not right. I've got all these results, I'm pushing all this stuff, but there's something inside of me that people really probably don't want to follow or didn't want to follow at the time. I wasn't leading, I was driving. And so that was a tipping point for me. It's a long way around the bush to tell you that I think leadership is an inside job. So much so, let me transition to the second story real quick.
Yeah.
At the Coca Cola company, I told you I'd been with Coke for a number of years, and I went through 11 plus reorgs at the organization. So every time the bottler changed their territory, there was geographic territories and consolidations and stuff. They changed our positions, and all kinds of stuff happened in the company. But a number of those times, Dan, I was involved in the reorgs. And so I would do and sit in recalibration or calibration systems where you would sit and understand and talk about your different associates as you start to plan out the new organization, and you decided who stayed and who went. And I tell everybody at the Coca-Cola company, if you work there like I did for as long as I did, working there was like being a member of Congress. Every 2 years, you were up for re-election. It's kind of like the merry-go-round. It's the chairs, right? So you had one, everybody had to sit down. If you didn't sit down, you were out. If you didn't get reelected, you were out. Or if you got reelected, you had to continue your campaign. You had to start for that next campaign season, the election coming up. But sitting around this table, we had all these executives. You had to bring your people in. You had to give talk about what they've done, the results they did, how they did it, all those things.
Yeah.
And I found this, that the people that were let go in our organization typically were the ones that were focused more on the what and not the how.
Mm.
People delivered table result, or delivered results as we went around the table, but it's how they got those results. Did they build a great culture? Did they focus on employee engagement? Did they develop people? Did people trust them? Did their followers follow them, right? And believe in them and give their very best because of that leader? Were they inspirational? A lot of times those leaders weren't. And so those are the two stories. One was this inside out job from a leadership perspective. And it wasn't just me, but then I saw it impact an organization about the way people saw things, especially when it came to reorgs and how do we want to shape our organization. That made a big impact. And that's why I wrote this book.
So I love great questions. And so you said this is an internal conversation or an inside out job. And one of the questions that caught my eye as I was reading is, what does it feel like to be on the other side of my leadership?
Huh, that's
What
great.
a great question. Because that's a hard question because you were reframing. So where where did that come from, and how might I help myself answer that without doing a 360 and putting everybody in a very funny place about how they feel about me?
Yeah, no, yeah. So, well, let's go there for a minute. I did have 360 evaluations. I had one that was just absolutely awful, where I had 20 associates sit down across from me after 4 hours of evaluating and saying, Preston, you're not doing a great job. And I had to look at myself and say, things aren't good.
Mm.
Um, and then but here's the good side of the story. I had another 360 evaluation about a year later, and there were still some issues on the team, but the team came back after a long deliberation and said, Preston, after last year's conversation, you did everything we asked you to do. This time it's us. And here's what we're
Hmm.
going to do to support you and our team and lift the bar here. So that's really a neat turnaround story that happened on my watch. Hey, here's the skinny. I think sometimes, and it's Dan, I get this question sometimes. I had a question somebody in Charlotte when I was at Coca Cola Consolidated one year doing a leadership thing said, hey, I've got a boss that's just totally self-unaware. How do we get their attention and let them know that they're not leading well? That's a tough conversation to have, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I'm not going to answer that, but I would tell people that it takes a few things. I think you've got to step back and look at the results that you're getting with and through your people. Are your people sticking with you? What's your reputation? Ask around. Find out what people are thinking about. You don't have to do a formal 360, but I think it's important. Do your values that you have. Number one, do you know what your values are? But are your values then coming to life with and through other people? Do they see those in you? Are they congruent with what your actions are, your thoughts are, and all that? So it's not easy. Emotional intelligence, self-awareness. If you're not willing to look at those things, you're probably not going to see them. And those are the blind spots. Sometimes it's a blind cover, if you will. So that's what I would encourage people to do. If you see things around you, if people are leaving your team or they're wanting to go somewhere else or they're not fully engaged in their job, oh, that's important to think about. Engagement. If they're not giving their highest level of discretionary effort at work every day that they want to be there, Gallup tells us that 70% of engagement is due to the manager. Guess who that is? If you're managing people, that's you, that's me. And so those are the things I had to look at. I don't know if that's a silver bullet that you're looking for, but I think that's one way to do it. So 360, very helpful for me on it, but also those questions, what's it like sitting on the other side of the desk for me is so important.
Yeah, it feels like that, the tone of humility of being open to have other
Yeah.
people tell me things I don't want to hear. Because emotional intelligence is, it's one piece of the factor. You don't usually get to a leadership or management spot unless you are street smart or
Mhm.
actual smart. But that emotional intelligence smart isn't always front and center because results are driving so hard. Okay, so let's say I'm open to that. Where do I start? Let's say, okay, I'm open to hearing other people's opinion and focusing on the how. Wait,
Mhm.
where would you start with me?
Well, what happened? Like, I can just tell you what happened in my experience, which I
Okay.
wrote about in another book called Discipled Leader.
Hmm.
Um, there was a tipping point for me where I had two associates quit within a matter of 2 months. And, uh, and so my boss looked at me and said, Preston, you're a top performer, but your people skills stink. What are you going to, I mean, you got to go get it fixed. And I said, well, I don't know what to do. How do I do it? And she goes, I don't care. Just go get it fixed.
Hmm.
And so I didn't know what to do, Dan, to be quite frank with you. And the only thing I knew to do was to call an executive coach or find an executive coach. And thankfully, I found one. And the reason I found that individual is because I knew she did what she did because I worked with her in some training at the Coca Cola company earlier in my career. And so I pick up the phone, I called Jennifer. I said, hey, here's what's going on. I need your help. Uh, but you know what? Through those reflective conversations and executive coaching, she pulled out some really good things in me.
Hmm.
Meaning they weren't great things, but what I mean by that is that she was penetrating in her questions, made me think a lot about who I was, why I was doing what I was doing, how I viewed people, the reason I was doing what I was doing. Right? I really hadn't really ever thought about that other than just achieving goals and climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
And it's funny that she actually helped me figure out my triggers. I don't know if you're familiar with triggers or not, Dan, or your audience is, but when I would get frustrated or angry or tired or something like that, I would just be a jerk to people. And so I figured out my triggers that if I didn't respect somebody, that was one of them. There
Hmm.
was a few others that were in there, but through all of that, I ended up writing a report back to my manager, a letter after, because the company actually paid for my coaching on that. They were still believed in me, right? They said, hey, let's go figure out how to soften this. And I wrote this long letter that's I included in the book, as a matter of fact. Um, but it was really just saying, hey, I realized that, I was thinking all these things outside of that were going on were other people's issues, but I found the common thing was me.
Hmm.
And so I had to step back and reflect on all that. It's more than reflection. It was like, okay, where do I need to change? And so from that point, it began this path. And it's funny. I tell people this. I was at Coke for 20 years, 20 plus years. If you worked with Preston Poore for the first 10, you probably still think I'm a jerk, right? If you work with me after the second 10 years, second half, you may think I'm a jerk still, but that's okay. But we had a different relationship. It wasn't about me. It was about the organization,
Yeah.
making it a great place to work, caring about people, helping develop them, being on an engagement team a couple times, shaping culture, shaping engagement, those things. And I was very blessed to be involved in all that. So it was really this sanctification is kind of an interesting word for if somebody is of the faith, but this was a change that happened to me, a transformation that was going on inside of me that eventually came out and came out a good thing. And ultimately has resulted in these books that I've written.
It's funny as you describe that, it reminds me of marriage and marriage
Mm.
counseling. Many a time you go in there trying to fix each other. This
That's
is
right.
what's wrong with that
Yeah.
person. That's what's wrong with this
Right.
person. And really, the only person you can work on is yourself,
That's right.
and how you react and
Yeah.
what you do. And it's funny when you're better, everything around you actually ends up getting better
Yeah.
when you're a healthier version of yourself.
Right.
Okay, you went there, so let's go there. You are faith forward,
Mhm.
and we're a platform that infuses faith into our values. Well, sometimes we call it the F word, faith. And we are plain glass before stained glass. But as you say,
Love it.
results are table stakes. It's people and
Right.
performance and
Right.
profit,
Right.
and
Right.
yet how you do it matters,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
so, how do you integrate this concept, especially as you say, without being preachy or passive, which is a huge challenge for some?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it again, I had to, I liken it, not that I'm Moses, but I liken it to the story and the journey that Moses went on. If people are familiar with Moses, if you've watched the Ten Commandments or heard a story during the Easter time frame or what. But Moses was a prince of Egypt and he was a performer. He did a great job. And he thought he was going to be the deliverer of the Israeli or the Israelites. He knew that, I think, but he took it into his own hands and he killed somebody, I think. And then God banished him. They sent him out. Pharaoh sent him off into the desert. He has 40 years in the desert of walking and being humble. And then the last 4 years, he's called by God into his ministry, if you will, and delivering the Israelites. I meander through that for a minute just to tell you that I think there's a process in this, at least it was for me,
Mm,
where I surrendered my life to the Lord when I was a very young age, but I did not surrender my career to Him until 2005.
mm,
And I didn't know how, Dan, to live out my faith in the workplace. I had no clue. I had really good people at church that were great mentors. I had really good, I guess, workplace mentors, but there was nobody that helped me understand how to take that Venn diagram, those little circles, and have them overlap, right? Because we want to live in the overlap if you're a person of faith. And so I saw when I went to work on Monday morning, it was all about Preston and trying to bring home the bacon for my family and climb up the ladder. But when I was sitting in church on Sunday, it was like, okay, I was all about church. But that's when the Lord got a hold of me. And that's where these changes started to happen in me. And I started to figure out that I was trying to do things in my own strength and not His. And I'll be as simple as that and as transparent as I possibly can with the audience that I just had to surrender my selfish ambition, my self-interest. And I'm still very self-interest, self-interested at times, ambitious. You asked my wife, you spoke of marriages, right? She would
yeah.
tell you the same. God bless her.
Yeah.
But I'm human, and I still struggle with some of that stuff. But I had to surrender those things. And when I did that, honestly, out of humility, and I was broken. There was a point when I was very broken. I was ready to quit the job. I was like just ready to give up, and that's when I was at the end of my rope, if you will. And some things started happening in me, and then started happening through me, and then around me as well. And that's what kind of happened to me. That was a little bit of my faith journey at work. But again, I think the net there is that I had surrendered my life at a very young age, but not my career until later on. And I started to figure out what really mattered. And that was, my relationship upwards and then in my relationships horizontally as well. And that made all the difference.
It's funny. I've never thought about the Moses story as a career journey,
Yeah.
and what a fun way to think about that. My journey would be much the same. First company, it might have looked cool on paper. My leadership style was doing what all the books told me to do, but it was very me focused, and
Mhm.
so. An early interesting exit led me to the eat humble pie and really figure out how to connect my head and my heart at the same time. And
Right.
so I think you'd agree if you were hanging out with first company Dan, you might think he's a jerk. If
Yeah.
you were hanging out with second company Dan, I might suck a little less.
Yeah. That's
That's
exactly just a
true.
little less.
Just
Me
less,
too.
right? Take the edge off, if you will. So
So good.
the thing is don't make it take as long as Moses.
Yeah.
40
Oof.
years is too long
Yeah.
to stare back in the mirror and see if you
Yeah.
like.
Let me pause here for a minute though. That's
Yeah.
true. One of the things I reflect on is at the end of the book, if anybody ever gets a hold of the book, they may want to go to the epilogue. Because I kind of tied things together there. And I had a really sweet moment after my retirement at the Coca Cola Company, my friends and family, coworkers surrounding me. Uh, but I sat back, I remember writing in my journal after that, Dan, that, Lord, we did this right. We got to figure it out because I heard everybody around talk about our relationship and the things we did together at work, and
Mm,
didn't really talk about launching Coke Zero or Powerade or any other brand that we might have done or the cool things that we did. It was more about what we did together at work from a relationship perspective.
yeah.
And that was just a sweet moment, an affirmation. And I'm not trying to point at myself. All I'm trying to say to folks, if you're listening today, and that's not a pat on the back, it was just a point where I realized that the journey that I'd been on over those 22 plus years uh, paid off in the end. All the hard work, all the changes that went on in the inside, I started leading from a better place. And it made a difference not only for me, but for the people that I was working with. And that was wonderful to know.
Mm. So you started with an executive coach and you kind of ended with a circle of feedback, with some 360s along the way.
Mhm.
One of the big takeaways for me here is we're all terrible at looking in the mirror and seeing truth and looking at ourselves honestly. And so awareness is step one.
Mhm.
And then there's some things that you need to know about yourself along the way, but then
Sure.
darn it, you need some other people around you
Mhm.
to help give you guidance because you can't see the truth,
Mhm.
honestly. It just doesn't work that way.
That's right.
That way. Hmm. Okay, what question did I not ask you? There's the books are always full of so many good things. You can only pull out a couple of tidbits. What tidbit did I not hit?
Oh, wow. You didn't ask me what the Coca Cola formula was. I have that. I was about to share that with everybody, but since you
I
didn't ask, we won't
I
go
would
through
like
that
more
today.
like the Hershey's chocolate. Like let's go. I'm a sweet tooth. I'm more of a candy guy than I am a soda guy. That's hilarious.
Yeah. The one thing I don't talk about in either of the books is that when I worked at Hershey Foods, man, I was fat. So don't take that wrong, but that was on me totally.
It's
But if
yeah,
you can
but
imagine, yeah, when I got to the corporate headquarters, I worked there for 2 years. The first thing that my administrative assistant that I was working with asked me, she said, "What's your favorite candy?" And I thought, oh, well, they're Hershey Nuggets. And I don't know if everybody knows what those are, but they had some toffee and some almonds in them. But I mean, and the idea behind that is that you would graze and you would go back and you would eat, eat, eat. And then I would play basketball in the corporate headquarters there for 2 hours every day. And Dan, I still gained 20 to 25 pounds eating all that candy. When I got out of the corporate headquarters and I was still in Hershey calling on Giant Foods, I used to have pallets of candy in the background behind me. So if you can imagine, the selling cycle was if Halloween, we're right about Halloween right now.
yeah, yeah.
I would have gotten Halloween candy early in January. So that far in advance, right? And so I'd have all the Reese cups, the Twizzlers. I was just sitting there munching on before I went and saw somebody, I was enjoying the candy. Whew, I ballooned up. And then I came to Coke and I thought, thank goodness I can drink Diet Coke at the time. So I did, and I lost 25 pounds. So it was fun.
All that candy and all that pasta
Yeah.
that
And
Hershey was making. Pasta
yeah,
and
that
candy. It's
too.
like a carb, nightmare.
Yeah. Now that I want to say something real quick, safe harbor statement. If you're in the candy industry, I love you. If you're all that, that was on me. I'm not saying that they're bad things at all. I'm just saying that was Preston Poore's habits. And
All good things in
yeah,
moderation.
that's right. Real
All
good.
good
That's
things.
hey, and I'm playing with you. If those are the things, I think we've covered a lot of great stuff today. You've had some really good questions, and hopefully your listeners today will benefit from what we talked about.
So, where can everybody find out more about you?
Well, thanks, Dan. You can go to prestonpoore.com. That's my website. And there you can see some of the platform work we have. I've got the 3 books that are out there. You can see some of the videos and the training I've done. And you can also go to Amazon and look up "How is Greater Than What," or just put my name in there. You'll see this big yellow book that looks like this copy. Get a copy of that. And got some great questions at the end. It's also got a free workbook at the end of the book. If you log in on that, that will help people. And it helps you with that self evaluation, thinking through those things that we kind of talked about today.
It's good stuff. That is Preston, Poore, in case you're looking at it on the interwebs. Well, we appreciate you being here for sure, Preston. We all could do a little bit better at our how, for sure, for sure.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time today.
If you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, you can go to acumen.impact.com and click on the apply button. Or if you'd like to learn more, we have a ton of great content like you just listened to here under the resources tab.